The sharp tap of a hammer on stone echoes in the dusty air. This is the sound of your new life, placing one tiny, colored cube into a bed of wet mortar. You are a Mosaic artist in ancient Rome, a world of vibrant color and gritty, physical labor. By the end of this, you will not just see these ancient floors, you will feel the calluses and pride of the hands that built them. We will uncover the secret language hidden in the stones and reveal why a single mistake could cost you everything. What does it truly take to leave a mark that lasts for 2,000 years? The floor beneath your feet is permanently dusted with a fine colored powder. This is your world, the officina, a workshop that is part artist studio and part construction yard. Light streams in through a high window, illuminating shelves stacked with wooden trays. Each tray holds a different shade of tesserae, those tiny cubes of stone and glass that are your palette. There are deep reds from crushed tile, creamy whites from local marble, and brilliant blues made from Egyptian glass, each color sorted with a precision that would make a general proud. The air itself is thick with the smell of wet lime mortar, a sharp, earthy scent that clings to your tunic. Underlying it all is a symphony of sound, the constant percussive tap-tap-tap of the hammer, and hardy as apprentices fracture larger stones into perfect, manageable pieces. You are not an isolated genius here. You are one link in a well-oiled chain of creation. The master artist, the pictor, holds the vision. He has the original cartoon, the detailed sketch that acts as your map. Your job is to follow that map with absolute fidelity, selecting each tessera from the correct tray and pressing it firmly into the waiting bed of mortar. An older, more experienced craftsman might be trusted with the central figures, the intricate faces and flowing robes that demand a delicate touch. You, however, likely start at the borders, mastering the geometric patterns and repeating motifs that frame the masterpiece. Every placement is a test of skill, and every mistake is a permanent mark in a story meant to last for millennia. Your first task is not to create beauty, but to understand its most basic ingredient. You spend weeks, then months, just mixing mortar. It is not a simple paste of lime and sand. It is a recipe for immortality, and the proportions must be perfect. Too much lime and it will crack as it dries. Too much sand and it will never hold the weight of centuries. Your hands become raw and chalky, your muscles aching from stirring the heavy, gritty mixture in a large stone trough. This is your foundation in every sense of the word. Next comes the sorting. You sit for hours before those wooden trays, your eyes straining to distinguish between 100 shades of ochre and umber. A master can spot the difference between a tile red and a clay red from across the room. You learn that color is not just a single idea, but a vast family, and every shade has its purpose and its place. Then there is the sound that will come to define your youth, the sharp, percussive crack of the hammer and hardy. The hardy is a small, blunted steel blade set into a wooden block. You hold a small piece of stone against it, and with a precise tap from your hammer, you aim to cleave it into a perfect cube. It sounds simple, but it is a dance of controlled violence. A tap that is too timid yields a useless, uneven shard. A strike that is too confident shatters the entire piece into dust. You ruin countless stones before your hands learn the precise amount of force needed, the exact angle of the wrist. This is your training, a slow, methodical apprenticeship that could last for 7 years or more. You prove your worth not through grand artistic statements, but through perfect repetition. You trace and retrace the master's patterns on broken pieces of pottery, your lines needing to match his exactly. Only after you have mastered the copy will you be trusted to work on the edges of a real commission, placing the simple, repeating borders that frame another artist's genius. There are no shortcuts. Every tedious hour spent mixing, sorting, and cutting is a lesson in patience, a lesson in respect for the materials that will one day carry your name. Each tool in your workshop has a distinct weight and purpose in your hand. The malleus, your heavy hammer, is not a crude sledge. Its head is forged with two distinct faces, one flat for breaking larger stones, and one slightly rounded for the finer work of shaping your cubes. It feels like an extension of your own arm after a while, its balance telling you exactly how to strike. Paired with it is the hardy, that unassuming steel blade set firm in its oak block. This simple duo is the heart of your craft, the source of that constant, rhythmic percussion that fills the air. Your success depends on their marriage, a perfect understanding between the force in your swing and the unyielding resistance of the blade. But before a single tessera is cut, the space must be mapped with precision. This is the work of bronze dividers and compasses, instruments of pure geometry. With these, you scribe the master cartoon directly onto the prepared foundation. The sharp points of the dividers scratch perfect circles and arcs, while the straight edges, long wooden beams planed to absolute flatness, create the borders and key lines that will guide every subsequent placement. You are not just drawing, you are laying down the invisible skeleton of the entire piece, a framework that must be flawless. A single degree of error in your compass work here will magnify into a glaring, irreversible mistake across the entire floor. Then comes the mortar. For this, you reach for your trella, a collection of trowels, each with a specific role. A large, heavy trowel spreads the coarse initial layer, the rootus. A smaller, more flexible one lays down the nucleus, the finer setting bed that will actually hold the tesserae. You learn to read the mortar's consistency by the sound it makes as you smooth it, by the way it pulls against the steel. Too wet and your cubes will sink and shift, too dry and they will never adhere. Finally, you return to your straight edges and levels, placing them across the freshly set sections. You sight along the edge, watching for any gap of light, any hint of a dip or a hump. The final test is the marble level, a long, narrow channel filled with water. When the water rests perfectly even at both ends, you know the floor is true. This is the quiet, meticulous work that happens between the hammer strikes, the unseen engineering that ensures your mosaic will not just be beautiful, but will lie perfectly flat and endure for ages. Your palette begins with the very earth beneath your feet, a hunt for color that stretches across the known world. The foundation of your work comes from local quarries, providing a range of humble, yet essential tones. Creamy white and soft yellow tesserae are cleaved from great blocks of limestone and marble. The rich, earthy reds and ochres come from baked clay tiles, crushed and carefully sorted. These are the workhorse colors, the background shades that make the brilliant accents truly sing. But for those accents, you must look far beyond your city's walls. The most coveted color of all is imperial purple, a deep, resonant hue that speaks of power and divinity. This comes from porphyry, a stone harder than granite, mined from a single remote desert in Egypt. Each chunk of this precious material arrives in your workshop after a long, perilous journey by ship and cart. Its value so high it is often reserved by decree for the emperor's own likeness or the borders of a state-sponsored villa. Then there is the true luxury, the glass. These tesserae, called glass paste, shine with an inner light that stone can never match. They are your only source for a true, brilliant blue and a vibrant emerald green. The secret of their color lies in minerals like cobalt and copper, melted into the glass at tremendous heat, a technique perfected in Egyptian and Syrian workshops. A single small tray of these blue tesserae can cost more than you earn in a month. The arrival of a shipment at your door is an event, a moment where you inspect each cube like a gem, holding it to the light to check for bubbles or imperfections. Your mosaic is not just a local picture, it is a physical map of Roman trade, a testament to the ships that brave the Mediterranean and the merchants who navigate desert routes, all to bring the colors of an empire to your fingertips. A commission never begins with a blank floor. It starts in a sunlit atrium, standing before a wealthy patron whose sandals tap impatiently on the existing plain tiles. He wants a new floor for his triclinium, his dining room, something to impress his guests. His instructions are rarely precise. He might wave a hand and say, "Give me the god of the sea with his chariot and plenty of fish, make it grand." Then he is gone, leaving you and the master artist with a world of interpretation. Your first and most critical task is to translate this vague desire into a physical blueprint, the cartoon. This is not a small sketch on a piece of parchment. It is a full-scale drawing, rendered directly onto the prepared foundation of mortar with charcoal sticks or a sharp piece of red ochre. The master pictor, the painter, is the architect of this vision. He must take that simple phrase, Neptune and his fish, and design a complete scene that fits the exact dimensions of the room, a composition that directs the eye and tells a story. He decides where the mighty god will stand in his shell chariot, how his seahorses will leap, and in what direction the dolphins will swim. He sketches the flow of the god's cloak and the curl of every wave. Every single element is mapped out in these fine, temporary lines. This cartoon is your Bible. It is the master plan you will follow with absolute precision, for any deviation from it is a breach of the patron's trust and a permanent flaw in the work. The pressure is immense. A single misplaced line in this drawing phase could mean a misplaced tessera weeks later, throwing an entire figure out of proportion. The cartoon is the invisible guide, the ghost of the masterpiece to come, and your entire team will work for months to make its fleeting lines eternal in stone and glass. That cartoon with its delicate charcoal lines is a promise, but a promise made on a weak foundation is destined to be broken. Before a single tessera can be set, you must build a floor strong enough to outlast empires. This is the unglamorous, backbreaking work that separates a fleeting decoration from a 2,000-year legacy. The process begins with the statumen, the deep foundation. You and your fellow workers haul in rough, fist-sized stones and broken bricks, packing them down into a thick, solid layer. This is not about beauty, it is about pure engineering. The statumen acts like the bones of the floor, providing drainage and preventing the ground's natural shifts from cracking the art above. You stomp and tamp this rubble down until it feels as unyielding as the bedrock itself. Next comes the rudis, a coarse mix of crushed pottery, gravel, and lime. You spread this layer over the statumen, smoothing it with heavy wooden floats. The crunch of broken amphorae under your trowel is a constant reminder that you are building with the very debris of Roman life, recycling the old to create something new and permanent. This middle layer adds mass and further stability, locking the rough statumen into a more unified, level plane. But the true artistry of the foundation lies in the final layer, the nucleus. This is the surface that will cradle your precious tesserae. It is a meticulously mixed paste of the finest lime and powdered marble, so smooth it feels almost like thick cream under your hands. You spread it with a lighter, more delicate touch, using your straight edges to ensure a perfectly flat and level surface. The timing here is everything. You have a narrow window to work before the mortar begins to set. If it is too wet, the cubes will sink and vanish. If it is too dry, they will not adhere and will pop out like loose teeth. You test the consistency not with a clock, but with your senses, feeling the pull of the mortar on your trowel and watching it sheen. This perfect, smooth, pale gray bed is your canvas. It is a testament to the Roman understanding that true permanence is never seen. The vibrant god, the leaping dolphins, the entire story the world will admire, all of it rests silently upon these three hidden, indestructible layers of stone, rubble, and lime. The perfect tessera begins not with a design, but with a fracture. Your hammer, the malleus, is poised above a rough piece of red tile held firm against the hardy steel edge. The angle of your wrist is not a random choice, it is a calculation. A straight vertical strike will likely shatter the tile into useless shards. Instead, you hold the hammer at a slight, precise angle, almost parallel to the hardy's blade. The goal is not to smash, but to guide the break. You aim your tap not for the center of the tile, but for its very edge, initiating a clean, controlled split that travels across the material. It is a whisper of force, not a shout. A single, confident tap produces a sharp crack, and the tile falls away into two pieces, each face revealing a fresh, clean interior color. This is how you create your primary building blocks, the cubes that will form the solid fields of a background or the flat planes of a tunic. But a mosaic is not made of squares alone. To capture the curve of a cheek or the delicate stem of a flower, you need more than cubes. You learn to create slices, long, thin tesserae that can follow a flowing line. For this, your hammer strike becomes even more delicate, a glancing blow that shears off a sliver of stone or glass. For the most intricate details, the corner of an eye or the highlight on a grape, you abandon geometry entirely. You use the tip of your hammer to nibble away at a cube, creating tiny, irregular shapes that fit together like a puzzle, allowing you to render subtle shadows and soft transitions that a perfect cube never could. The air in the workshop grows thick with a fine, colored haze, a dust made from your own wasted efforts. For every perfect tessera that lands in your tray, a dozen misshapen fragments litter the floor at your feet. Your hands become a map of your craft, crisscrossed with small cuts and hardened with calluses that no amount of washing can erase. You are not just cutting stone, you are learning the language of the material itself, listening for the sound it makes just before it breaks correctly, feeling the vibration of a perfect cut travel up your arm. And you must do this not just a few times, but thousands upon thousands of times, for a single room can demand more pieces than there are stars visible in the night sky. The moment your fingertips press that first tessera into the cool, damp mortar is one of profound commitment. There is no rehearsal for this. The charcoal lines of the cartoon are your only guide, a fragile map you are about to translate into something permanent. You do not start at the edges. The true work begins at the heart of the story, with the central figure of a god or the focal point of a complex scene. This ensures the most important elements are perfectly aligned and that any minor discrepancies can be absorbed and corrected in the sprawling backgrounds and borders that surround them. Your entire body is focused on that single point of contact. You select a cube of deep red porphyry, its surface cool and smooth. Holding it between your thumb and forefinger, you press its base into the yielding gray bed, twisting it slightly as you set it down. The sensation is a quiet, wet crunch as the mortar accepts the stone. You feel the material push back against your skin, a firm grip that tells you the bond is good. This tiny action is irreversible. Once set, prying a tessera loose will only tear the fragile setting bed and leave a ragged, ugly hole. Every placement is a final decision. You work outward from that central point, following the bold outlines of the master's drawing. Your hands move in a steady rhythm, a dance of selection and placement. You are not just filling in a shape, you are building a surface, one tiny, colored plane at a time, and you must constantly think about the angle of each cube. By tilting a tessera slightly, you can catch the light in a specific way, creating a shimmer across a robe or a shadow in a fold of skin. A field of tesserae all set at the same flat angle will look dull and lifeless, but a masterfully varied surface seems to breathe and move as the sun travels across the room. Your world shrinks to the patch of mortar directly in front of you, to the precise alignment of one colored cube with the next. You forget the grand design and focus only on the immediate, tactile truth of the work, the pressure of your fingers, and the growing tapestry of color under your hands. This is where the drawing truly comes to life, not on charcoal and stone, but through a relentless, deliberate accumulation of choices, each one as permanent as the last. This rhythm of placement builds something far greater than a flat image. It creates a current. Your rows of tesserae are not simply stacked like bricks, they flow. The Romans called this flow the andamento, the walking of the Mosaic. It is the hidden language of movement within a static floor, the deliberate direction you give to every line of stone and glass. A single row laid straight and rigid speaks of a wall, a boundary, something solid and unmoving. But curve those rows, make them wind and intertwine like a slow-moving river, and suddenly the floor itself seems to ripple with life. You do not place tesserae at random, you guide them. For the depiction of water, your rows become long, sinuous curves, each tessera angled to catch the light like a tiny wave, pulling the viewer's eye across the sea god's domain. For the sturdy trunk of an oak tree, your rows run vertically, tight and parallel, mimicking the upward growth and rough bark. The flow of the andamento tells the viewer how to feel. It directs their gaze along the path you have chosen, making them see the current in the water and the strength in the tree before they have even fully recognized the subject. The most demanding test of this skill is a face. Here, the andamento must follow the subtle contours of flesh and bone. Around a cheek, the rows become soft, concentric circles, hugging the curve. Along the line of a nose, they run straight and true, defining the bridge. This is where the master's touch separates from the apprentice's labor, in the ability to make hard stone and glass obey the soft logic of a living form. A face laid with rigid, grid-like rows appears flat and masked like a dead thing, but a face laid with a sensitive andamento seems to have volume, shadow, and breath. It is this invisible current, this walking of the lines, that transforms a collection of colored cubes into a story that moves, breathes, and captivates anyone who walks upon it. But a mosaic that only flows is still just a pattern, a beautiful map without any hills or valleys. To truly capture life, you must master the final illusion, the sculpting of light and shadow on a flat stone floor. This is where a careful sorting of 100 subtle shades pays its greatest reward. Think of a simple fold in a woolen cloak. If you rendered it with a single flat color, it would look like a painted shape, utterly lifeless. Instead, you build it from the inside out. Deep within the recesses of the fold where no light can reach, you place your darkest tesserae, cubes of deep umber or a shadowy gray. As the cloth begins to curve upward, you introduce a slightly lighter tone, then another, each row a step closer to the light. Finally, along the crest of the fold, where the sun would strike it directly, you set your brightest, most brilliant white or ochre cubes. This careful progression from dark to light, This gradation of color is what the masters call modeling. It tricks the human eye into seeing a hollow where there is only stone and a rounded ridge where the surface is perfectly flat. You apply this same principle to a human arm. The muscle is not a single color, it is a landscape. You use darker tesserae to define the shadow beneath the bicep and a bright highlight along the top curve, making the stone seem to swell with life and strength. A face becomes your most demanding challenge. A single misplaced dark tessera can turn a gentle smile into a grimace or a noble brow into a furrowed scowl. You use tiny, slivered pieces of the darkest stone to define the subtle hollow of an eye socket, and the smallest, brightest white cubes to place a pinpoint of light in the eye itself, the spark that suggests a soul looking back at the viewer. This is the highest art of the mosaicist, not merely placing colors, but mixing them with light itself, using the relentless geometry of cubes to create the soft, breathing, three-dimensional illusion of life. The sun has not yet crested the city walls when your day begins. Your knees meet the cold, hard surface of the setting bed long before the first ray of light warms the stone. This is your posture for the next 10 hours, a permanent curve in your spine as you hunch over the growing expanse of your work. The initial focus is a welcome distraction, but as the morning stretches on, a dull, persistent ache settles deep into the small of your back, a companion as constant as the dust in the air. Your world is a square arm's length in front of you, a patch of mortar and the endless selection of colored cubes. The concentration required is its own form of exhaustion. Your eyes, straining in the variable light, must constantly judge subtle shifts in color and minute gaps between tesserae. By midday, a throbbing headache often blooms behind your temples, a direct result of this relentless visual precision. Your hands tell the story most clearly. Fingertips, worn raw from pressing sharp-edged stones into the abrasive mortar, develop a network of fine cracks. They become so desensitized that you might not even notice a fresh cut until you see a smudge of red against the pale gray setting bed. This is not a job for the frail. It is a slow, grinding negotiation between your body's limits and the demands of an immortal art. Your payment for this daily trial is a small, clinking pouch of coins handed to you at the end of each week. The weight and the sound are a tangible measure of your worth. On a good week, working on a prestigious villa, the sum might be enough to comfortably feed your family, with a little left over for a new tunic or an offering at the local temple. But work is not always steady. A delay in the shipment of Egyptian glass, a sudden shift in a patron's finances, a week of rain that halts all outdoor work, and that pouch becomes dangerously light. Sometimes payment is not in coin at all, but in kind, a side of salted pork or a large amphora of cheap wine from the patron's own estate. This form of payment is a subtle reminder of the social ladder you occupy. You are a skilled artisan, a craftsman. You are not the unskilled laborer hauling rubble for the statumen, whose pay is a pittance. Your knowledge of materials, geometry, and art sets you apart. Yet you are also not the patrician who strolls through to inspect your progress. His clean hands and perfumed tunic a world away from your chalk-stained, aching existence. You inhabit a curious middle ground, respected for your skill but never truly considered an equal by those who employ you. Your name will never be celebrated like that of a sculptor or a painter, yet your work will endure underfoot for centuries, a silent, beautiful testament to a lifetime of pain, patience, and profound, unspoken pride. This silent language of stone extends beyond light and shadow into a deeper world of meaning. The scenes you are ordered to create are never just decoration. They are a carefully chosen vocabulary of power, faith, and identity. In the grand triclinium of a wealthy merchant, the central panel might depict the mighty Achilles, the great warrior, discovered on the island of Skyros. The patron does not choose this scene by accident. It is a public declaration of his own cunning and ambition, a parallel to the hero who could not hide his glorious destiny. In another home, the entire floor of a reception room might be given over to the riotous procession of Dionysus, the god of wine and ecstasy. Here, the swirling andamento of the maenads and satyrs is not just an artistic choice, it is an invitation to abandon restraint, a promise of the lavish hospitality and pleasure awaiting the guests who recline upon it. These mythological scenes are a social code, a way for a homeowner to communicate his wealth, his education, and his aspirations to everyone who crosses his threshold. But not every message is so grand. In the more private spaces of the house, you might lay simpler, quieter moments from daily life, A vivid hunting scene with dogs chasing a stag across the floor speaks of the family's leisure and their connection to the land outside the city walls. A panel showing the harvest with figures gathering grapes and olives is a humble tribute to the source of their wealth, a grounding reminder of the earth that provides for them. Even the geometric borders are part of this language. The intricate interlocking meander pattern, also called the Greek key, is more than a filler. It symbolizes infinity and the unbreakable bond of family, a continuous line protecting the home. And then there are the symbols of pure belief, woven into the fabric of the floor for protection. At the very threshold of a main entrance, you are often instructed to set a powerful, staring face, the gorgonon. This is the severed head of the Gorgon Medusa, her wild hair a tangle of snakes, her gaze so terrifying it was believed to turn evil itself to stone. Placing her image at the doorway was not a morbid choice, but a practical one. She was the ultimate guardian, a spiritual sentry frozen in your mosaic to repel any ill fortune or envious spirit trying to enter the home. Every tessera you set, from the grand god to the smallest protective symbol, is part of a silent conversation between the home and the world, a permanent declaration of who lives here and what they hold sacred. The pressure is a physical weight in the air, thick as the marble dust that coats your lungs. An imperial commission is not a job, it is a trial by fire. The floor you are working on now is not for a wealthy merchant's dining room, but for the grand basilica of the emperor himself, a space so vast its echoes seem to take a full second to reach your ears. The scale is almost incomprehensible. Where a private home might require a few 100,000 tesserae, this single hall demands millions. Your team swells to a small army of craftsmen, all laboring in coordinated silence under the watchful eyes of the imperial architects. These men are not artists, they are bureaucrats of beauty, armed with scrolls and measuring rods. They move through the workspace with a quiet, unnerving authority, their clean, soft hands a stark contrast to your own. They are there to ensure that every single element, from the largest figure to the smallest border, communicates one message and one message only, the unchallengeable power and divine right of the emperor. The materials are on a different level entirely. Common limestone and tile are nowhere to be seen. Your trays overflow with the empire's most extravagant treasures. The background is not simple white, but a sea of deep green porphyry, a stone so rare its quarry is a state secret. The emperor's own robe is rendered in a purple so vibrant it seems to pulse with light, each tessera of imperial porphyry worth more than your monthly wage. The gold leaf glass tesserae, used for the halos around his head and the eagles on his standards, are handled with tweezers and held in place with a special, clearer mortar. A single misplaced cube of this gold glass is not just a mistake, it is a financial catastrophe, a loss reported directly to the overseer. Every depiction of the emperor must follow a strict, unwritten code. His face is not that of a mortal man, it is an idealized mask of youth and serene authority, his brow forever unfurrowed, his eyes gazing at a distant, glorious horizon. He is always shown larger than any other figure, his proportions subtly exaggerated to dominate the scene. He might be portrayed making a sacrifice to the gods, a scene meticulously designed to show his piety and thus his divine favor, the source of his power. You are not creating art, you are forging a political statement in stone and glass. A single error in the line of his jaw, a shadow that makes him look weary or weak, could be seen as an insult, a dangerous misstep with consequences you dare not contemplate. Here, perfection is not the goal, it is the absolute minimum requirement. But the emperor's palace is not the only stage for your craft. The true test of a mosaic's endurance comes not from the soft sandals of courtiers, but from the pounding of 1,000 common feet. You trade the hushed, oppressive silence of the imperial hall for the chaotic, vibrant roar of a public bathhouse under construction. Here, the challenge is not political perfection, but raw, unyielding durability. The floor of the caldarium, the hot room, must withstand a constant assault of steam, heat, and water, day after day for generations. The mortar recipe is altered, mixed with a higher ratio of lime and crushed terracotta to create a hydraulic concrete that actually hardens underwater. The tesserae themselves are cut thicker, their edges left slightly more pronounced to provide grip for wet, bare feet on the slippery surface. A perfectly smooth, polished floor here will be a death trap, so your artistry must serve a practical purpose, your beautiful patterns doubling as a safety feature for the bustling crowds. The themes shift dramatically as well. In a private home, you tell the story of one man's ambition. In the public baths, you must speak to the entire city. Grand mythological scenes are still present, but they are often simpler and more direct, celebrating universal ideals like health, strength, and the bounty of the sea. A favorite motif is a vast, intricate sea creature, an octopus with swirling tentacles or a powerful dolphin leaping from a wave, its form echoing the water in the great pools. These are images everyone can understand and enjoy, from the wealthy senator to the common soldier. In the forum's commercial buildings, the mosaics become signs themselves. The entrance to a tavern might feature a simple but effective scene of men drinking, a clear advertisement of the pleasures within. The floor of a shipping office could display a detailed map of the Mediterranean, a proud declaration of the owner's far-reaching trade networks. The art is no longer just for private contemplation, it is public communication, designed to be understood in a single glance by a person rushing past. The working environment is a world away from the secluded workshop. You lay your tesserae to the soundtrack of the city, a cacophony of hammers on stone from the adjacent project, the shouts of foremen, the rumble of carts delivering materials, and the constant distracting flow of pedestrians who stop to watch and comment on your progress. There is no controlled light from a high window, only the harsh, direct sun or the frustrating gloom of a cloudy day. You must work quickly, as the public's patience for a blocked walkway or a closed bath section is notoriously short. The pace is relentless. The pressure is to cover vast areas in a fraction of the time a private villa would allow. Your team works in coordinated sections, each person responsible for a different part of the grand design, your individual styles and rhythms forced to blend into a single, cohesive whole. Here your name is truly lost, your personal touch absorbed into a monumental public utility. Yet there is a different kind of pride here, a satisfaction that comes not from pleasing a single patron, but from knowing your work will become part of the city's daily heartbeat, a durable, beautiful foundation for the messy, vibrant, and endless drama of Roman life. Yet in this vast empire of stone, your name is almost always the one thing that remains unseen. Most mosaics are anonymous, the collective effort of a workshop absorbed into the grandeur of the final piece. But on rare occasions, a craftsman carves a small, defiant claim into the wet mortar of the setting bed. He scratches two simple Latin words, followed by his name. Facet made by. It is not a signature in the modern, flamboyant sense. It is a statement of responsibility, a quiet declaration that this particular hand guided the work. This act is both an expression of immense pride and a profound professional risk. You are not just claiming credit for the beauty, you are staking your reputation on the permanence of every single tessera you set. You are telling the world and all the generations to come that you are willing to be judged by the integrity of this floor. If a cube comes loose in a year, it is your failure. If the andamento flows awkwardly, it is your error. If the patron is displeased with a single shadow on a god's face, it is your name they will remember. This small, scratched inscription transforms the work from a simple commission into a personal testament, a challenge thrown down to time itself. Why would anyone take such a risk? For some, it is the pride of a master who has graduated from the borders to the central figure, whose skill has finally earned the right to be remembered. For others, it might be a clever business tactic, a way to ensure that future patrons walking through this very villa will know who to seek out for their own floors. But for many, it is something deeper, a human need to push back against the anonymity of their craft. After a lifetime spent on your knees with your face inches from the stone, leaving your name is a way to finally stand up and be counted. It is a whisper from the dust saying, "I was here, my hands built this, and I trust my work to last 1,000 years. The perfect tessera you set this morning now mocks you." Its color, a shade of ochre that seemed right in the tray, clashes horribly with the surrounding field once seen in the full light of day. Or perhaps your hammer slipped during a final cut, chipping the corner of a crucial cube in a god's face. The mistake is there, a permanent error glaring from the floor, but only if you choose to leave it. The true test of a master is not in avoiding every fault, but in knowing how to make one vanish. The process of correction is a high-stakes surgery performed on your own work. Your tool is not a chisel, but a fine, sharpened iron pick. You must work with a terrifying delicacy. The mortar around the flawed tessera is still curing, hard enough to hold but soft enough to be persuaded. You insert the tip of the pick into the microscopic gap between the faulty cube and its neighbors. With a gentle rocking pressure, you work to break the suction without shattering the surrounding tesserae. The sound is a quiet, gritty crunch that sets your teeth on edge. One wrong twist, one moment of impatience, and you will pry up not just the one bad piece, but a whole section of your meticulously laid work, leaving a ragged crater in the image. If you succeed, you are left with a small, perfectly shaped void, but the bed of mortar is now torn and uneven. You cannot simply press a new tessera into the damaged hole. You must first repair the canvas. With a small spoon-like tool, you carefully remove the ruined mortar, scooping it out until you reach a sound layer beneath. Then you mix a tiny, fresh batch of the setting bed, matching its consistency perfectly to the original. You press this new mortar into the void, smoothing it level with the surrounding surface. Only then can you select a replacement tessera, one you have checked and double-checked for color and shape, and press it home with the same deliberate twist of your fingers. The entire operation is a nerve-wracking exercise in precision, a race against the drying time of the mortar and the limits of your own steady hand. A successful repair is invisible, a secret known only to you. A failed one creates a compound error, a messy patch that forever marks the spot of your panic. The final tessera is set, but the floor is far from finished. What lies before you is a vast textured landscape of countless colored cubes, each one standing slightly proud of its neighbor, separated by a fine, dark network of gaps. This is the raw state of the mosaic, a masterpiece still hiding in a field of rough individual pieces. The final act, the one that will unify the entire image, is the application of the grout. This is not the same coarse mortar you use for the foundation, but a fine, carefully mixed paste, often made from lime and powdered brick to give it a reddish or buff hue. The choice of color for this grout is a critical artistic decision in itself. A dark grout will make each individual tessera stand out sharply, creating a bold, graphic effect like a drawing with heavy outlines. A light grout matching the background color will allow the forms to blend more smoothly, creating a softer, more painterly illusion. You mix the powder with water until it reaches the consistency of thick cream. Then you take a large, soft cloth, dip it into the mixture, and begin to wipe it across the entire surface. You push the paste with firm, sweeping motions, forcing it deep into every single crevice between the stones. You are not just filling gaps, you are locking the entire composition into a single, unbreakable sheet, cementing the bonds between a million individual parts. The floor transforms under your hands, the bright colors of the tesserae momentarily drowned under a uniform, dull film of gray or red paste. It looks like a ruin, a beautiful thing deliberately buried. Then you wait. The grout must set but not fully harden. This is a race against the clock. After a few hours, when the grout has firmed up just enough to hold its shape but is still slightly pliable, you return with buckets of clean water and a stack of coarse rags. This is the moment of revelation. You kneel and begin to wash the surface, scrubbing away the excess grout from the faces of the tesserae. With each circular pass of your rag, color begins to emerge from the murk. First, a single brilliant blue eye of a dolphin appears, then the deep red of a god's cloak, then the shimmering white of a wave's crest. You work systematically, rinsing your rag again and again in the bucket, which quickly turns into a slurry of gray water. The final step is the polishing. You switch to softer, dry cloths and sometimes even a smooth, heavy stone called a polisher. You rub the entire surface with a steady, determined pressure, smoothing any last remnants of grout and bringing up the inherent sheen of the stone and glass. As you work, the light in the room begins to change. The flat, dead surface starts to catch the light, each tessera now a tiny, angled facet. The colors, once muted by dust and film, ignite with a depth and vibrancy you could only imagine during the long months of labor. The sea god's chariot seems to leap from the floor, the water swirling around it with a newfound liquid energy. This is the first time you or anyone have truly seen the mosaic. It is no longer a collection of parts, but a single breathtaking whole, a story captured in stone and light, finally ready to bear the weight of centuries. The floor is only your first canvas. Soon the master calls you to a new, more daunting task, a wall in the patron's private bath. Here, the rules of your craft are turned upside down. You can no longer press tesserae down into a bed of mortar. You must fix them to a vertical surface, defying gravity with every piece you set. the mortar itself must change. For a wall, the recipe is altered dramatically, using far less water and a stickier, more tenacious lime paste that grips the stones like glue. You apply this thick, almost dry mortar in small sections, no larger than the span of your hand, knowing it will skin over and lose its grip if you work too slowly. Your posture shifts from a kneeling hunch to an aching upward reach, your arms constantly raised, your neck craned back. The setting technique becomes a careful stab. You dip the base of a tessera into the mortar to coat it, then press and hold it against the wall for a long moment, feeling the suction take hold before you dare let go. Your entire body becomes a scaffold, bracing against the slightest tremor that could dislodge a freshly placed cube and send a cascade of expensive stone and glass clattering to the floor. But when you step back, the effect is breathtaking. Light from a high window strikes the vertical field of tesserae at a new angle, making the glass cubes shimmer with a life that a floor mosaic can never achieve. The gold leaf tesserae set into the halo of a nymph seem to capture and hold the light itself, glowing with an inner fire. This challenge is surpassed only by the vault, the curved ceiling of a niche. Here you fight gravity on a new front. The mortar must be even thicker, almost a dry pack, and you must press each tessera upward into the curve, holding it firm until the grip is absolute. Your world becomes a small, inverted patch of sky, your muscles screaming as you work overhead, the colored dust raining down into your hair and eyes. But when the final piece is set and the grout is washed away, you lie on your back on the cool floor and look up. The mosaic does not lie flat above you, it seems to float, a dome of color and light that envelops the entire space, pulling the viewer into its celestial embrace. The ultimate test of this vertical art, however, is water. You are tasked with lining a courtyard fountain, its base in a shallow bowl of stone. Here, the mosaic must live in a world of constant wetness and reflection. You use the thickest, most water-resistant hydraulic mortar, and you set the tesserae with their faces slightly tilted to catch the sun. When the water finally pours in, the transformation is magical. The mosaic is no longer a static image. The moving water ripples and distorts the patterns, making the sea creatures you crafted seem to swim. Light reflects off the wet, glassy surfaces, casting dancing, liquid patterns of color onto the surrounding walls and the faces of those who lean over to look. Your art is no longer just underfoot, it is all around. It flows and shimmers, transforming the very air and light of the space it occupies. Your artistry is only half the battle. The other half is fought in the sun-baked forum with a wax tablet in your hand. A potential client has heard of your workshop, and now you must negotiate the price for his new villa floor. This is a delicate dance, for you cannot simply name a sum. You must calculate the cost of every single material, from the common limestone to the precious Egyptian glass, then estimate the number of man-days the work will require, all while projecting an air of confidence that makes him trust your judgment over the rival workshop just down the street. A contract is rarely a simple document. It might be a verbal agreement sealed with a handshake and a small down payment, or a more formal stipulatio, a written agreement witnessed by a third party, detailing the size of the floor, the central theme, the quality of materials to be used, and the final price. But the most dangerous clause is often the one concerning changes. A patron, watching his floor take shape, might suddenly decide he wants more fish in the sea or a different god in the chariot. This is where your patience is tested as much as your skill. Every alteration after the cartoon is finalized means more materials, more labor, and more time. You must gently but firmly renegotiate the price, risking his displeasure, or absorb the cost yourself to preserve the relationship and your reputation for being easy to work with. The competition for these contracts is fierce. Other workshops are constantly vying for the same wealthy patrons, and some will underbid you, promising the same quality for a fraction of the price. You cannot compete on price alone, for to lower your rate is to devalue your years of training and the quality of your materials. Instead, you compete on your name. Your reputation is your most valuable asset, more precious than any tray of gold glass. It is built not in a day, but tessera by tessera, across a dozen completed floors. A client hires you because his friend saw the mosaic in another villa and marveled at the smooth andamento of the waves and the lifelike expression on a goddess's face. He hires you because he heard you finish the public bath project on time. Despite the rain and the delays in marble shipments, your name becomes synonymous with reliability, with an unwavering commitment to the hidden strength of the statumen and the perfect gradation of color in a shadow. In the end, the business of mosaics is a long game. A single dissatisfied client can spread doubt through the entire network of wealthy homeowners, while a patron pleased with your work becomes your most powerful advertisement, his gleaming new floor a silent, enduring testament that brings the next commission and the next to your door. That final polished surface is more than a floor, it is your own voice frozen in time. Every choice you made, from the boldness of the imperial purple to the subtle flow of the andamento in a wave, speaks of your particular hand and the world that shaped it. This is the true weight of your legacy, the knowledge that long after your own name is forgotten, the story of your skill will remain. The very aesthetic of your era is captured in your work, a permanent record of what your culture considered beautiful, powerful, and sacred. The preference for intricate geometric borders over sprawling mythological scenes, the shift from bold, graphic outlines to soft, painterly illusions of depth, these are not just artistic trends. They are the fingerprints of your generation, pressed into the mortar for the future to decipher. Your mosaic becomes a time capsule, telling archaeologists of a distant age not just about the gods you worshipped, but about the sophistication of your tools, the reach of your trade networks, and the hierarchy of your society. The patron who commissioned the work is speaking through you as well. His wealth is measured in the rarity of your materials, his taste reflected in the complexity of your design, his ambitions carved into the very stories you tell. A floor celebrating the hero Hercules is a declaration of strength and virtue. A scene of a bountiful harvest is a testament to a family's deep roots in the land. You are the instrument through which these messages are made eternal. But what are you saying about yourself? You are leaving a record of immense patience, of a mind that could hold a vast composition in its head while focusing on the placement of one tiny, colored cube. You are demonstrating a profound understanding of geometry and light, and a physical endurance that borders on the superhuman. Your legacy is one of quiet dedication, a testament to the belief that creating something truly lasting is worth a lifetime of bent knees and dusty lungs. This floor will witness the rise and fall of families, the shifting of political winds, the slow crumbling of the very walls that surround it. It will be walked upon by people who speak a language you would not recognize, who worship different gods, who have no concept of the world you inhabit. Yet through it all your work will endure, your careful gradation of shadow on a marble cheek, your perfect flowing line of a border, your secret, confident repair of a flawed tessera, all of it remains. You are sending a message across the centuries, a silent, stubborn declaration that you were here, that you were skilled, and that you built something meant to be remembered. The shimmering gold in your tray is no longer just an accent for an emperor's robe. It is becoming the very air your figures breathe. A subtle but profound shift is moving through the workshops of the empire, a current that pulls your craft away from the solid, earthly world of Rome and toward the heavenly, weightless realm of Byzantium. The demand for perfect, lifelike illusion begins to wane. Patrons no longer want to see a god who looks like a man. They want to see a being who is fundamentally beyond human, a window into a divine and eternal truth. Your andamento, the flow of your lines, begins to change. The sinuous curves that once mimicked the waves of the sea now flatten into more rigid, parallel rows. The subtle modeling of light and shadow that gave a face its roundness is replaced by stark, graphic contrasts. A cheek is no longer a gently rounded form. It is a flat plane defined by a single, sharp line. The goal is no longer to trick the eye into seeing 3 dimensions, but to present a powerful, symbolic idea that speaks directly to the soul. The materials themselves reflect this new purpose. That precious Egyptian glass, once used for the deep blue of the sea, is now more often fired with a backing of gold leaf. These gold tesserae become the ultimate symbol of the divine. You are instructed to set them not flat, but at slight, varying angles across a vast background. When a worshiper enters a new church and candlelight flickers across the apse, the entire wall behind the central figure seems to shimmer with an unearthly, living light, a representation of a heaven that is not a place, but a state of radiant being. The figures in these mosaics become less like actors in a story and more like icons. Their faces are serene and elongated, their bodies often hidden beneath heavy, stylized drapery that falls in rigid, parallel folds. Their large, staring eyes seem to look through the viewer into a different reality altogether. You are no longer building a beautiful floor for a banquet. You are constructing a visual theology for a congregation, using your hands to build a bridge between the earthly and the celestial. This is the slow transformation of an entire artistic language, the quiet beginning of a style that will one day fill the great churches of Ravenna and Constantinople, setting the stage for the art of the Middle Ages. Centuries later, a different kind of dust fills the air, a fine, dry powder from a forgotten hillside. A soft, bristled brush moves with a slow, deliberate rhythm, sweeping across a hard surface. It is not a master's hand setting a tessera, but an archaeologist's hand revealing one. The brush clears away dark, packed earth and a color emerges, a brilliant, startling white that has not seen the sun for 2,000 years. A whispered exclamation ripples through the small team. More brushes join in, their gentle movements uncovering a curve, then a line, then a field of deep red. Piece by piece, your mosaic returns to the world. The excitement is not a loud celebration, but a hushed, focused energy. They are the first people to see this image since you washed the final grout from its surface. Their theories begin to form immediately, a conversation spun from the fragments you left behind. They see the sea creature with its swirling tentacles and theorize this was a merchant's villa, its owner celebrating the source of his wealth. They find the protective gorgonan at the threshold and nod, understanding the universal human need to guard a home from evil. They measure the precise gaps between your tesserae and marvel at the consistency, noting it must be the work of a single highly skilled workshop. They debate the slight stylistic differences between the central figure and the border, wondering if a master laid the god while an apprentice handled the repetitive patterns. In this moment, your anonymous artistry becomes their primary source. Every choice you made is a clue. The use of local stone for the background tells them about the original economy. The single precious tray of Egyptian blue glass speaks of long-distance trade routes. The theme of the mosaic itself offers a glimpse into the patron's identity, his hopes, and the stories his culture valued most. They will never know your name, the ache in your back, or the pride you felt polishing that final surface, but they know your skill, they know your patience. They know the world you helped build. Your silent, enduring floor has finally found its voice, speaking across the millennia, not in words, but in the universal language of color, light, and stone. This anonymous legacy is the very definition of your place in the world. You are the unseen engine of Roman beauty, a craftsman who transforms the raw wealth of an empire into its most enduring visual language. Your tesserae grace the floors and walls of every stratum of society, from the merchant boasting in his dining room to the emperor proclaiming his divinity in the basilica. You provide the backdrop for both private life and public spectacle, your art setting the stage for everything from a family meal to a sacred ritual. Without your skilled hands, the Roman world would be a far plainer, less communicative place, a society without this rich, textured skin of color and narrative. Yet for all your indispensability, you remain a ghost in your own story. The patrons who fund your work are remembered, their names sometimes inscribed in stone for their generosity. The emperors depicted in your mosaics are immortalized in history books, but your name, the name of the artist who gave them that immortality, is almost always absent. Your individual genius is willingly sacrificed, folded into the collective identity of Roman art. This was not necessarily a mark of disrespect, but a reflection of a different worldview. In your time, the workshop was the brand, and the master who secured the commission was the face of that brand. Your personal satisfaction came from being part of a tradition, from knowing your work met the exacting standards of your craft and contributed to the cultural fabric of your civilization. You were a vital cell in a larger, magnificent body, and your pride was in the health of the whole organism, not in the recognition of the single cell. You walked through the bustling forum, past the grand buildings adorned with the work of your peers, and you felt a quiet, unshakable certainty. You were not a slave to a single patron's whim, but a free artisan whose skill guaranteed your livelihood and your place in the community. You belonged to a guild, an association of fellow craftsmen who set standards, trained apprentices, and provided a social safety net. This was your identity, not as a lone genius, but as a respected member of a vital and honored profession. The silence surrounding your name is not an emptiness, but a different kind of record. It speaks of a culture that valued the enduring product over the transient personality, the shared achievement over the individual boast. Your legacy is not a signature, but a million fragments of stone and glass, patiently assembled into a world that would remember everything about itself except the hands that built it. From the first clumsy tap of a hammer to the final polished gleam of a god's eye, your journey is a testament to patience. You began as an apprentice, your world narrowed to the mixing of mortar and the sorting of 1,000 shades of stone, your hands raw and your muscles aching. Through years of disciplined repetition, you learned to listen to the fracture of a tessera and to feel the perfect consistency of the setting bed. You mastered the invisible geometry of the cartoon and the flowing current of the andamento, and you discovered how to sculpt light and shadow from hard, unyielding materials. This was not a swift ascent to fame, but a slow, deliberate accumulation of skill, a quiet conversation between your will and the nature of stone. The true masterpiece you created was not merely the image on the floor, but the unwavering discipline within yourself. Your legacy is etched in the calluses on your hands and the quiet pride of a problem solved with a delicate iron pick. The next time you stand in a museum and see one of these ancient floors, do not just glance at the picture. Kneel down if you can and look closely. See the individual cubes, the subtle shifts in color that model a fold of cloth, the tiny, irregular pieces that form the curve of a smile. See the sheer number of them, each one a single decision, a single moment of focused attention. That vibrant scene of a sea god or a quiet hunting dog is a frozen ocean of such moments. It is a monument not to a single famous name, but to the anonymous hands of countless artisans like you. They built an empire of beauty not with grand declarations, but with one tiny, perfect stone at a time, leaving a glimmering testament to human patience and skill that still catches the light after